Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. Of course, I am your host, Bigfoot in Michigan Rob. How is everybody doing tonight? Thanks for joining us this evening. As always, have a great show in store for you. Joining me in Studio B from Missouri, Krista from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube. Texas Front Porch found on YouTube. You can find us on Spreaker, Instagram, iHeart, wherever podcasts are available. Don't forget the Super Chat's open, a great way to help support what we do. Also, you today can become a BMR pirate. Join today. Join the many. Join the few. I guess that depends on your point of view. You get a picture of me. Yes, you do. With my bandana next to your name in the chat room. Please don't forget. Most of you do forget. Alert bell. I know you all forget because only 9% of you, that's right, I have the numbers, turn on your alert bells. I don't think it's from the people that usually participate, but if you're new, Mickey G, a member for 8 months. Thanks, Mickey. Love you. Yeah, turn on the alert bell, you guys. You won't miss any of our shows because we also got we're on 7 days a week, you guys. Variety of times we're on in the morning, we're on the afternoon. We're also on late night, midnight with myself and the gals. So yeah, turn on the alert bells. Don't forget, like, leave a comment. It does help with the algorithm on YouTube. I'm about 240 away from 5,000. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully I can get that by Thanksgiving. So please subscribe if you're new. Subscribe to Krista and Brandy, Blondes and Booze. Help them out. They're getting close to milestone themselves. So let's do this. Let's make it happen by Thanksgiving. I got to thank everybody around my books that are out there. Gary Spike Sr., thank you. 5 new more pirates. Thanks to Gary Sr. Thanks, Gary. Don't forget, my books are out. My newest release 2 months ago, it's been out. Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters Book 2. Of course, book 1 is still available. Thanks to everybody that's bought it. Please do me a favor. Leave a review on Amazon. Much like YouTube, analytics is what it's about these days. That does help promote sales. Type Bigfoot Michigan Rob on your Amazon browser. Leave a review. Of course, subscribe to the shows. And yeah, I appreciate that. And also, with my lovely guest, D.A. Wysong, author, we're going to be talking about a couple of her latest release. She's got a series, the Monster Hunter series, The Rise of the Cryptids, Monster Hunters of America Unleashed. There's 2 of them. She's written like 27 books. All of her information is in the description of the show, provided with all DA's links and also where you can find her books. Also, I know one of her distributors is Amazon. So please show her some love. Buy her books and check out all her other online social media. I would appreciate that. With that being said, I'm going to bring up the lovely Krista.
Hey.
What's happening?
It's Tuesday, but it should have been Monday for me. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we will. I'm not going to bring up. You forgot the most important thing that we need at work today.
I know, right?
Yeah, and I know y'all guess what that is.
I walked out of my house today, and I work about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic, away from home. And I walked out of my house today with my work laptop. So I get to work, and I'm like, okay, so either your choice is I'm going home, and then if I go home, I'm working from home, or give me a laptop to borrow today. And then they gave me one to borrow. However, it didn't have all my stuff on there. It was just a hot mess. So it's not been a great day.
Yeah, my day's been kind of just, Tuesday is like my Monday as well.
Yeah.
Because Sunday is the only day I don't work is Sunday because I watch football, from morning till night.
Right.
Yeah, my Lions, beat the heck out of the Cowboys. And, I like watching all that film on Monday and watching all the shows. And so, yeah, Monday's like kind of a day off. I don't do too much.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday back to work, right? And then But I'm really looking forward to this show. DA was on, I think, 6 months ago or so.
A little bit,
We
but
we talked a little. We're talking. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today. A couple of our books. We're going to talk about it is that Halloween season,
it
and I'm
is.
promising everybody great shows. They've all been great shows. I got my series I put out for Halloween every day, every other day. So yeah, we're going to talk some spooky stuff. And without further ado, I'm going to get on with it and bring up our awesome guest, DA Wysong.
Hey, hey,
Hello.
good to see you again.
It's good to see you all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, our pleasure, my pleasure, Chris's pleasure. You're on about 6 months ago. We talked about, I think it was Soul Catchers,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
was I got the book. I read that book.
Mhm.
Just a great book, and I'm glad we had an opportunity to do that. And I'm glad you're back to talk a little paranormal. We'll talk a little bit about, what you have going on. You've got like 27 books. I'm not going to give up your whole entire bio. If you want to just walk us through really briefly, little background, nothing major, just to get our audience members, a little familiar with you.
Well, I'm actually up to 34 books now.
Whoa, look at that! I'm off by 7. Man, bad on me. Shame on Rob.
Yeah.
You are on a roll.
I am on a roll. I'm actually on my 4th book for the Monster Hunter series. It'll be coming out in November. So that's 4 more
Wow.
books since I've been on here about 6 months ago. So I
Holy
really
cow.
am on a roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I showed this really early. I'm sorry, just everybody that's coming on in. These are a couple of the books. I certainly can't put all 34 on the page, but here's a couple of the latest, I guess. And I like those covers too. They're pretty cool.
Thank
Good
you.
art.
My last book's actually the Monster Hunters of America and Alaska, Hunting for UFOs.
Oh boy, now that's one I definitely need in my million books in the corner that are all collecting dust. Yeah.
Yes.
Me too.
Well, you can see I have the same problem back here.
Yeah. I do like the background.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really actually utilize it a lot. So it's my little workspace here, but I can write anywhere.
You can call me a little strange, but when I see bookcases and wood shelving, I know it has nothing to do with Halloween, but it's still, for me, it's kind of spooky. It's a nice ambiance about it,
I agree.
Not that there's anything creepy about it, but it's just puts you in the mood.
Yeah.
Well, you never know what anybody's got on them bookshelves,
Right.
Well, I've got all my 34 books, and I got some Lovecraft back there, and and I actually have a couple of your 2 books too, Rob. So
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Wow. You must really okay. So you were on here, how long ago? 6 months. And then you've written, what, 4
Well, I
more
was
books
actually
since then?
getting ready. I was actually getting ready to come out with the first one when I actually was on the show, and then that one came out. And you know what? I am so immersed in my writing. It's like I just breathe it and eat it and drink it. It seems
Obviously, you're fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. Good deal.
I mean, like a couple people were making nice yet funny comments. It's like, you must do you write 24/7? Do you not sleep at 2 hours or what?
I told you I'm like a night owl, but I'm up in the day too. I am, and the books are pretty good sized books. They're about 40,000 words a book. It's a novel, so I do a lot of research in the process that I have. I just immerse myself. I can't not write. When I get on the subject, I just got to keep going until I put it out there. And they're all doing really well. I mean, they're on all 3 of the first books have been top 40 for probably the last 5 months. A couple times they've gotten to number 1, so they're really being received well, out there. So
Wow.
I have a quick question with Keith from Michigan. Always, I don't think he says he doesn't think he's colored in 34 books in his lifetime. Yeah.
Kind of like the Aurora Borealis, where everybody just colors. If you don't have that picture, you just take your crayons and color it and put it on Facebook.
And now they got these stupid painting / coloring apps on your phone. I have not.
Don't mock them. I like them.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm not mocking them. I'm scared to do the app because I could probably spend useless hours doing it because they come out cool, like cool prints.
I do.
They
Useless
really do.
hours. You nailed it. They do.
I bet it's relaxing, actually.
It's very relaxing. I honestly like, okay, I'm even embarrassed to tell you how many a day I do.
Oh, boy.
Like, yeah, I probably do 6 a day.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my mom, she's addicted to that. And I've always, she does it on her phone, right? And she's like, hey, my phone is all slow. You know, can you help me out with my phone? So I go through her phone. Ma, you got 1,000 colored books or colored pictures stored in here. You got to delete some of these. Jeez, or store them on the computer. Do something with it. You know, with 34 books, so I got to ask you, because I've got the 2 books, but a lot of the books, I'll be honest, I got a lot of that information from people that had encounters, and I kind of shaped their stories for them and put them in my books. I'm starting my 3rd book about my paranormal adventures, and I think I'm pretty creative when I write stuff, right? But I wrote a book a long time ago that we were talking about saving things. I told you the story a long time ago. I wrote a story about a vampire, and it was during a weather storm. I was just like 26 years old. I had like 380 pages, and I lost every single word in the book during a power outage.
That sucks.
Yeah, but
That's why you need that backup, Rob.
Yeah, we were just talking about,
We were just talking about that.
But that was back in the day when you had the big old monstrous computer. You had the big, almost like the box TV monitor. You had the clinkety clank keyboard, and the tower was a million feet tall. This ancient stuff.
I remember those days.
You know, but with 34 books, let me ask you, what gives you the inspiration and the ideas? You know, we were talking, everyone talks about Dogman and Bigfoot, which is cool. Everyone loves that. But there's other monsters out there that you like to explore. And I mean, what gives you the inspiration? How do you come up with the thoughts, the ideas? And I know a lot of this is based on fact and some fiction and some folklore, which to me, folklore, as I always say this, I say this almost every show, there's some truth behind every tale that's been spun back in the 1600s, 1700s. People didn't make these stories up. They might have been embellished over time, right?
Right.
But there's always a semblance of truth. So
Right.
what gives you your inspiration? How do you get the ideas to come up with all this?
I just think it's everything. Everything I do, I just the way I look at things. If I hear something, not even just about the paranormal, but in general, I just like I have a cha-ching moment, and I usually it comes to me in titles, so I'll just jot the title down, and I'll have an image, and then I just put it in the jar and just keep going on and doing what I'm doing. And then eventually I bring it back up. And usually, like right now, I have probably 25 covers waiting to be written. The covers of the books are already there. So I know what I'm going to write about. I don't have an outline or anything, but I know, eventually after I'm actually working on Monster Hunters of America, Hunting for Dogman in Kentucky. So it's really actually pretty fascinating because everything that you're seeing play out, for example, in North Carolina, with everybody getting flooded out and stuff, that was a very similar thing that happened to the land between the lakes back in the late 30s and the 40s. I mean, it's like watching history repeat. So my mind just goes like, I'm researching this, and this is what happened, and now I'm writing it, and history's repeating itself. And in this particular series, it is fiction, but it's actually the timeline that's probably closer to the truth than what we've been taught.
Well, I would think too that because I read the one book, Soul Catch. I haven't read the other ones. I mean, again, it's not because I don't want to. It's because there's 90 other ones I got here that I haven't even opened, collecting dust. But I would say though that there's an element of fiction, but a lot of your research and studies that you put in these books are based on actual events, though. You just might have rephrased them because
absolutely.
because not all people that don't know anything about what we're talking about today, which aren't the people in the chat room who are listening, but if John B happened to tune in and has no clue, he would probably think this is just some spooky show, creepy pasta show, or whatever.
Right.
But all things we talk about is based on things that's happened to people,
Right.
or that we've researched. I don't care if it's boots on the ground or reading.
Right. Well, the more that I've been researching this particular area, I am in northern Kentucky. So I'm about 4.5 hours from Land Between the Lakes. I've got a friend that lives down that way, and the area is beautiful. I know you've been down there, Chris, and you too, Rob. Not too
Yes,
long ago.
I have. I've been through there. Yes.
I mean, it's a gorgeous area, but that land is haunted. It's cursed. They did some pretty bad stuff, and I think a lot of the activity that goes on, I don't necessarily think Dogman's actually the best name for it. I actually do believe it's more like a shapeshifter. I think it's several things, and what I found interesting when I was researching is, how in North Carolina, the similarities, how they, in North Carolina, there's the lithium that the government's wanting to get their hands on. This is for entertainment purposes, of course,
Of course. Chris and I got slammed by talking about the government. I got a video taken down for 48 hours.
Well, I'm just wanted to point that out. It's just for entertainment purposes.
We're good to go. Thank you.
Yes. But
nice disclaimer.
Yes, and back in the turn of the century, when the settlers were coming in, they started mining the iron ore. Just think of it. All the iron was so rich down there, and in folklore, iron keeps negativity and entities away. So basically, that area got stripped. Not only did the people get flooded out, and then there was already creatures that were allegedly in the woods, but you got an area that's completely stripped of iron. So it's almost like it was an open season for whatever wants to come in. My story, anyway, in my book.
That's funny. I heard that somewhere about iron. Iron is supposed to ward off ghosts. Somebody told me that, Chris. I forgot who that was.
Well, it's just negativity and evil entities in general. Like a lot of the cemeteries that had the iron gates. A lot of people think that's to keep everything out, but it's actually originally it was to keep things in. Especially if you would see a cemetery and there would be an iron gate, it would be to keep that. They thought that was probably a vampire or something evil. They didn't want it to get out, so they put that iron gate there. So imagine if that is the truth, imagine a land that's completely stripped from the iron.
Wow.
They had 8 furnaces down there, and they really plowed that area. They just took it all out.
So do you go to Land Between the Lakes?
I haven't been down there, to go hiking or anything like that. I've got a friend down there, but I am planning on going down there. I really do. I doubt if I'll get down there, before the weather gets bad, but I'd like to go in the spring.
Well, give Brandy and I a holler. We'll meet you over there.
I would love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, how did you guys do on your last trip down there? Did you see anything?
Last trip. I'm trying to think when the last trip was. That was way back in March. Was my last trip there.
Did you guys meet up to go together or something? And there was a convention.
We met up with Greg Ogles, and he was filming his documentary. And so yes, they actually did get some good stuff. I didn't witness it, but they all did. Yeah, they got some pretty interesting stuff.
They did. That was Greg Ogles. In fact, he'll be debuting his film January 4th in Alabama.
Yeah.
Now, what does Greg think that creature is?
That night, I know that they encountered. He believes they encountered a Bigfoot.
I heard they are down there too. Very territorial.
Yeah, and I think the rumor is false about Bigfoot in the south, Dogmen in the north. I don't think it matters. I think there's Dogmen in both north and south, and Bigfoot in both the north and the south.
I believe that too.
Yeah, they don't have
How are they
boundaries.
going to keep? Are they just going to like not cross the line?
Right.
You know?
Right. You know, because I've heard of encounters in both for both. You know,
Yeah.
so
Well, I don't know if I would want to see a dog man. You know, I mean, part of me thinks that they might be werewolf. You know,
Yeah.
there might be some werewolves down there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there are. I believe in werewolves and dogmen are different, and I think they both exist. I
Mhm.
have to tell you that I've been through a lot of woodlands, forests, throughout my life, right? And I got to tell you, and I don't say this just to be entertaining. I'm not when I say this. You can ask Krista. When I drove down with Krista and her husband to from St. Louis to Alabama, and on the way home from the conference, Krista goes, "Hey, Rob, want to take a brief detour? I'll take you through the land of the lakes, LBL." I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be cool." And I got to tell you, well, first of all, she took us. Well, there's like many cemeteries in this place.
Yes.
And as soon as I get out of the car, Krista goes, "Oh, don't forget you're walking on dead people." I'm like, "Thanks for that." But I must say, after about less than 5 minutes into this, less than 5 minutes in, though, and again, I'm not saying this just to be entertaining. I'm not. Again, I've been to a lot of woods and forests that have had cryptids roaming, ghosts roaming, but that's the first time that I really felt odd. My inside, my inner being, man, felt weird, different, like a weird energy. Maybe it was the spirits of the land, cursed lands, whatever. Maybe then I'm thinking, well, Rob, because you know what happened here, so you're just manifesting these thoughts. I don't think it was that. I think there was something there that I felt. And I'm
Well,
not the only person that's ever felt
yeah.
that, right, Krista?
Well, the thing is, too, where I took you and we actually got out was a cemetery that's had a lot of weirdness. And actually, I believe in, I think it's Martin Groves' book. There is an encounter in his book at that cemetery we were at. Plus, it's only a quarter of a mile away from the alleged kill site. So there's a lot of,
Wow.
I'm
Curious if that cemetery is that a Catholic cemetery?
it's called Mount Pleasant Cemetery.
Well, I heard that in the actual, what I've been reading, the actual that the dog man won't cross into that cemetery. It's on the outskirts. I don't know if you've heard that before.
I have not. But in Martin Groves' book, and I'm just quoting from his book, in this particular cemetery, it was mid-afternoon and people were cleaning up the cemetery. It was a couple and dogmen or two, I'm not really sure the whole exact, but appeared and they were in the middle of eating their lunch. So, and that was broad daylight at that cemetery, Rob, where we were at.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's only a quarter mile away from the kill site.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I actually just finished a chapter on that.
Oh, wow.
It's science fiction, but
Yeah.
So
yeah, you need to meet us over there.
I would love to do that. I would love to do. What's really cool about writing fiction? I think one reason why my books are so well received is it's almost like I'm a medium. When I start researching or if I'm inclined to write about something, I'm already thinking about it all the time. And then once I start researching, it's almost like sometimes, well, of course, I have my characters that I'm putting into the timeline. But the characters that I believe that were in that timeline, it's like I get into their heads. So when I start writing the book, their story, their voice is being told. That's what makes it so compelling.
Wow.
And I actually, went through that chapter where that family was slaughtered.
Wow.
Now in my book, there was a survivor that was a 15-year-old boy. Have you heard that?
I have heard about him.
And he did come forth. I think his name was Roger. I'm not sure.
Correct.
But it's really, I do believe that, like for example, with the dog man too, the stories down there. Like I said, I almost think that they are. I don't think it's one thing. But I do believe that there is some shapeshifters down there, There, I was thinking about this is pretty crazy, but you know how we believe in ghosts or spirits and they linger and they're there.
Mhm.
So just imagine if you had a shaman that went rogue and they die eventually. What if what we're seeing, because it's a supernatural vibe, maybe it's the spirit of that shaman that is still in the middle.
Yeah.
One of the things. I don't think it's the only thing, but
Could very well be.
there could be flesh and blood as well.
Mhm.
Dog man. And then I do believe the military, the government has things that are out there that are being tracked.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, they do. I mean, even if you reflect back to like a couple of the two books I put out, some of the emails that I get, and some of the live shows, and even some of the guests we've had on the live shows, the government's involved. They know what's going on. I mean, we're not ignorant to that fact. These things do happen. And I think that they monitor them. I think some of them are even created by our government.
I
Yep.
do too.
I've had too many people tell me such from experiencing it. I talked to people that work for facilities, ABC facilities, that they practice in DNA manipulation, splicing, and a whole bunch of weird things they have going on. And I think they do. We've all heard about these deep underground military bases. What do you think goes on down there? Right? It's not all just for. It's not all on the up and up.
Well, and like in my second book, Unleashed, the timeline with the rise of the cryptids begins, and when I started writing the series, I didn't think that it would be the way that it was, but it starts in Nazi Germany, which I have never been a big person in historical timelines at all.
Yeah, I did want to, before you go on, please continue. But again, you'd mentioned, about your books, a lot of our fictional pieces. But again, what I like about it is you combine actual events that have occurred. So you blend it nicely together, because I get it, you're writing books for entertainment, but it's really not all fiction, folks. There's elements that have happened to people.
Right.
It's based on your research of
it's definitely historical fiction, and that's why I'm saying I take my characters and I place them in there. But Deanna is the main character, and she lives quite a crazy life. She starts in Nazi Germany, ends up in the United States, and finds out that, because she comes with the information that she saw not Hitler doing and performing with what they called back then chimera. It wasn't cryptids, it's a new classification, a new word, but they were actually called chimeras. And but Plum Island and Unleashed, and the book 2 and Unleashed, that's what they did. They had Nazi scientists and doctors on Plum Island. That's who ran Plum Island in New York. That's what they do. That's where the Lyme disease, the ticks, the fascination with bugs and weaponizing them. That's real stuff, guys.
Right.
And it's still happening. The FDA, right there at Plum Island, for the, all the research and everything. And they call them chimeras.
Yeah.
So, and then book 2, you get to see a lot of that, because they are experimenting, like you said, DNA. I mean, there were things in the 70s and stuff that started washing up on the shorelines that they were creatures that nobody's ever seen. It's easy enough to start researching it a little bit. It really did happen. And there was actually a couple humans that were washed up.
Wow.
And it just so happens you can't get to Plum Island. Like, you could swim because the water is safe, but in that particular area all around the island, just so happens they have this poisonous seaweed, or not seaweed, but some kind of plant that it'll kill you if you get too close to it. So you can't get to the shoreline.
Wow.
And I think they did that for a reason.
On purpose, right?
Safeguard, to keep you out.
Wow.
They're actually putting out, this is a little off topic, and I'll just throw this out there. It's kind of news for everybody that lives off the coastline. especially right around the Hurricane Milton, North Carolinas and Florida, especially. Do you know that they washed up for the ocean? That hurricane brought up a parasite that if you're in the ocean or um, if you got wet, if any of that water, if you were in that water in that wash up when the
Blood water.
shoreline, yeah, thanks. And a lot of people are getting flesh disease now.
Really? How big was the parasite? Did they see it, or was it microscopic?
Microscopic, yes, flesh-eating disease. People have been catching.
I mean, the percentage of what we've seen in the ocean is very minute, like 10%. So I'm not surprised.
Me either.
There's probably more things in the ocean
Yep.
than there are in the forest. I know a lot of things have not been found in the forest as of yet. There's vast amounts of forests that have not been even touched. I get that.
Right.
But talk about the abyss of the ocean. That's
the older I get, the ocean does not seem that appealing anymore. I think I've just watched too much stuff. I researched too much.
Well, that's the pro and con of reading and researching things, because I'm much like you. I love the ocean. I wanted to grow up and live on the ocean.
Oh no.
Or at least live on a lake. I do live in the Great Lakes, which is cool, but they're a distance away. Because I wanted to be, I actually wanted to be like a oceanographer. I wanted to be a biologist as a kid and study the ocean.
Wow.
I did, yeah. A lot of things I wanted to become. But looking back at the ocean, now it kind of terrifies me.
Me too.
As to what's lurking in the ocean.
Yep.
I didn't hear about that parasite, though. That's pretty frightening.
I read it like 2 or 3 days ago on I forgot if it was either on TV or on the internet. But yeah, it's going on.
And today I just read where there's so many viruses in the ocean water that we just can't even understand how many. I just read that today.
Wow.
It correlates with what Rob's saying.
That's scary. I
even reflect back on the days swimming in the lake, falling in the Detroit River, swimming in the river, and swimming in a lot of these lakes. The state of Michigan's got other inland lakes. I spent many of my 20s at the lake in the lakes. Now looking back, what I know about these lakes today, and when I went to the lake, you guys, over the weekend, I didn't shower. My shower was the lake. And now to imagine what I was bathing in,
right?
It's kind of grosses me out today a little bit.
Right?
I can understand that.
So.
Yeah, I don't do the ocean. There's things that will eat you and kill you. Give me the mountains any day.
I do love the mountains, but we do have Bigfoot up there.
Well, you know what? I would rather see a Bigfoot than come face to face with a great white. Just saying.
Yes, true. Yeah. And whatever else is lurking in the waters.
Exactly.
Not to mention the UFOs that are lurking underneath the sea.
Right?
Oh my, we could go all day on that subject too. We can go all over today on this show, but the mountains, I definitely, that's the place I'd rather be today. I've driven through the mountains. It was funny, when I was in Alabama, I said, oh, wow, cool mountains, but they're really not mountains. They're just like really tall hills at 2,000 feet.
There's Appalachians.
And I like to get back in the Rocky Mountains. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
check
Rockies are really pretty.
And we're Duke's in the chat room. He's a spit's throw away from the mountains of Montana, which would be cool. Getting back to Kentucky though, really quickly, with your research and stuff. I know you're very aware of Kentucky. Kentucky's pretty spooky, and you probably have more underground tunnels and cave systems than any one state combined.
400 miles that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever explored any of these and found anything, or got freaked out, or getting inspiration from your books
it's been a while since I've been in any caves, but of course I have been in caves down around Mammoth Cave and stuff. And I have to tell you, down where the ferry is around Mammoth Cave, they say really you shouldn't go down there because they close off that area because of the Dog Man. and also Bigfoot, but it's not it's the dog man that's the aggressive. It's like they have issues with that. Like they really do rope it off, or they'll close the ferry down. I think that's the north area of Mammoth Cave.
Wow.
So I know Jody Cook. Like a year ago, we were talking a little bit about Daniel Boone Forest, and he had a couple real encounters. I've not had an encounter myself, but he said you should not go in that particular forest, which is down right around Red River Gorge and Natural Bridge and all that area. I mean, it's huge, but there's a lot of caves in that area too. And the Cherokee and the Shawnee wouldn't even go in that area to hunt or live. They didn't go into that. And when I was researching for my book, Daniel Boone actually had an encounter with a Bigfoot.
He did. He absolutely did.
Yeah, once with his son, and he said the one that he had when he first got to Kentucky, when he was cutting through the Cumberland Gap, he shot him twice in the head. He said he cut a hide and showed for as a trophy. Why would he lie about that? He, if we're going to take his word on all the other adventures he went on, and he said that it was like 10 foot tall. Yeah, but I think that was a Bigfoot. I don't think it was. He actually called it a Yahoo because he used it from Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah,
and that it was a giant hairy beast. Yeah.
So right here, about 20 minutes from my house is Daniel Boone's home, where he moved to.
Really?
Traveling through. Yep. I'll have to go live and do a live from there one day. It's pretty cool.
You should.
Very haunted. Last time I was there, it was real. Yeah, you could definitely feel the ghost.
I wonder why it's so haunted.
I have no idea.
Yeah, Dan, I've heard that too. Really quickly before I forget, you mentioned Jody Cook. Jody Cook always makes a sighting in Christmas time on the show. He'll be on the show in December. Dogman and Christmas just mix so well that he'll be a guest in December.
Here I was thinking evil elves. But we could go with Dogman. That's fine.
Right.
Well.
That's funny.
No, I mean, I heard the Daniel Boone area is maybe a little more frightening than the LBL area. Isn't it interesting how all the national forests, though, they're just not really safe for us to go in?
Sure.
Well, when I did some research, where I had my Bigfoot encounter in 2018, the national park, again, and that encompasses all. I call it the west to the east coast, because the national forest here is just expansive. There's a lot of haunted and cursed lands by First Nations that I found out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and a lot of strange things go on.
Yeah,
and I think that's true with every single national or state forest. There's cursed lands in every forest, I do believe.
Yes, I would agree.
Now, have you heard of the Gagwa? That's another creature that's
the Gugwe. Yeah, Duke knows Gagwa or Gugwe. Duke knows more about that than I did. I think he experienced one when he was a kid, but
Gugwe
that's the face eater. Yes.
Yep.
Very terrifying.
Now that's supposed to be rampant in LBL. I've not really heard any personal encounters, but when I was doing my research, that really did come up, and it's supposedly even more aggressive than the Bigfoot or the Dogman.
Well, they are. Well, they will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they will.
Absolutely, they will kill you.
I don't know if there's any documented factual information, but what I know about it and heard about it from other sources, nasty. Yeah. And I heard they're mostly northern in the North America. Not so much the Midwest or the South, but then again, I think that any cryptid creature can migrate wherever it wants to go.
Well, now what's supposed to be? I haven't researched that much, but what is the biggest difference between that and the Dogman?
I don't really want to speak on it too much. I don't know a lot about the Gugwe, but they're two different entities all along.
Yeah.
when I think dog man, I think more of a spiritual. I think it's really something that comes from a different realm. Myself, I
Mhm.
think it's more paranormal than flesh and blood. I believe really quickly that there is a dog man that is a solid flesh and blood creature. I think is a dog that it's an upright dog that has the hock legs that can walk, oversized head. I think there is a creature
Mhm.
that's natural, but I also think that we have so many accounts of these dog man werewolf type creatures that walk like a Bigfoot, have the girth of a Bigfoot, the the wolf head,
Yep.
and they just appear out of nowhere. I mean, Bigfoot is mysterious itself, where I can come and go where it chooses, kind of mystifying. And every time I hear stories or look up the dog man or speak with people on it, it's just something that just gives a person a sense of that dread, that it's not does not have good intentions. And I think that it's not even from this realm that we live in today. I
Mhm.
think it comes from somewhere else. I could be wrong, of course.
I think you're right. I definitely think you're right.
Yeah. I think a gugway is something that I would rather come upon a dog man than a gugway. I mean, they say, if you encounter a gugway, like, I mean, they're just out to kill you, period. Where like a dog man, they might taunt you by smiling, that kind of thing. But a gugway is just out, just to kill you.
World Bigfoot Central Duke Sullivan, he's pretty much a wealth of knowledge in these subjects. But in his opinion, again, with the Gugway, he thinks this is a relative of the Dinopithecus. So, but yeah,
Yeah, could
again,
be.
it could be,
Yeah.
thing about when you think you know anything, you don't know anything, right? The longer you do this, the less you know. I know that's cliche, but so true.
Mhm.
It is true. You do. You go down the rabbit hole and it's like it never ends.
Yep.
It just gets deeper and crazier. And you know what I found interesting in my research for Kentucky is even back with when the early settlers came in, they talked about lights in the sky. I mean, and we didn't have words like UFOs, but there were sightings hundreds of years ago, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Really quickly, again from Duke, the earliest Gugway report came from Lake of the Woods in Canada in the late 1700s.
There you go.
So, like all these cryptids, they've been around. And again, from the north. But yeah, but like you said, so I didn't mean to cut you off. There was it's just like
No,
there's so much. Back in 2018 when I saw what I saw, do you think I didn't? I had no idea that I would just get so immersed in this and go down the rabbit holes. Now I'm talking dog man,
Right.
ghosts, UFOs, ghouls, aliens. It's all connected, in my opinion, today.
Yep.
I do too. Actually, when I finish the fourth book, The Hunting for Dogman in Kentucky, I'm going to be doing Hunting for Big Muddy and the Elementals in Illinois.
Oh,
I
again, that's
do,
another thing. The
I do
elementals.
believe the Elementals are connected and interchangeable with certain Bigfoot.
Wow.
I do.
I
And I
think that
think
they
that
work together.
well, in my books anyway, they're gonna, the cover has these orbs, and there's a particular. It's been about a year since I really looked at my notes, but there's a particular area that's got a lot of waterfalls, and there's a lot of sightings with the elves and the elementals and Bigfoot, the Big Muddy, and
Mhm.
they come in my book. They're going to be. I do believe this is really true. I touched base with it a little bit in my book for Alaska, but I do believe that they use orbs as a transportation vehicle. In my mind, that's what came to me. That they come in with different orbs, and that maybe they don't really even look like Bigfoot when they're transporting. But once they get into our realm, that's what they show themselves as, reveal themselves, or they can reveal themselves as an elemental. I think they're interchangeable, and I think they can actually look like a tree. I think they can just look like the nature, like they're nature beings. I think the Bigfoot are.
I only do this when it resonates, and I hate doing this, Krista. I don't think you've heard this, DA, and I've done this a couple times, but I've got a actual encounter that I have in one of the two books. I think the first book from a person I spoke with, right? And this is about the elementals and Bigfoot.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And this man, he's been in this forest. He was hiking through there and camping there for Chris is already smiling. She knows the story. 6 years. The guy's very familiar with his land. Fishes there every year. It's his spot, his exact camping spot. There's a river that runs through the forest. He just knows it like the back of his hand. He sets up his tent, and one day he's walking about up the river, going to find a nice fishing spot, he and then he found it strange that he's seen like a newer trail. And again, this man knows this like the back of his hand. He says, "What? This is kind of out of sorts." So he starts to travel down this new trail. And it was kind of an overrun trail with growth, with the brush and such, but it was different. And as he's going down this trail, all of a sudden he realizes he's lost. The river disappears. You can't hear the river. You can't see the river. And even the topography, even the land itself was different. It was shaped differently. The trees were different species of tree than he's used to, that he never seen before. And he lost all wits about himself, and now he knows he's lost. He's lost. He's panicking. How can I be lost? I know this area. 6 years, been coming here several times a year. He's a little frightened. Then he sits down trying to collect his thoughts. 30 feet away, 60 feet away in the tree line, he sees the shadow of this huge image, which he says it was a shadow of a large humanoid. And then he says, like the shape of a Bigfoot. Conical head, wide, 8 foot tall, 9 foot tall. And he had the sense it was a Bigfoot. But it would it would pop in and out the shadow and disappear. But then he starts looking at these trees, DA. And how these trees, it first started to freak this guy out because the trees, a couple feet up from the base of the tree, they started developing faces.
Wow.
Faces started to appear in these trees, like magically, right? And so the guy at first was like, scared. And then he looked further down the tree line, then another face would appear. Then the shadow of the Bigfoot would appear. And so he's thinking out in his head that in some strange way, this is a pathway to get out of here. Like he's being helped. Now the fear kind of went away, and he kind of felt like, I've got to, despite my reservations, despite the fact that, hey, I don't know what this is, but I think this might be positive. He starts following this tree line, and periodically these faces would appear out of the tree line. So this man is following. Again, though, he's still lost. He's going on 15, 20 minutes. Occasional shadow of a Bigfoot, alleged Bigfoot. And these faces, and he's walking. And then before you know it, then all of a sudden the faces he doesn't see any more faces. And then he sees out of the wood line, the Bigfoot walked out and showed itself briefly. The actual, not a shadow, the full-figured, embodied flesh and blood. Well, I don't know if this was flesh and blood or not, to be honest, but a Bigfoot. He sees it, briefly turns away, disappears back into the forest, and the faces disappeared as well. They did not keep popping up as frequently, but the man still traveled on this path. Then all of a sudden, guess what he hears? He hears the sound of water running in the background. So he uses his sense of hearing, and he's trying to walk towards this water. The water starts getting louder and louder. Then before you know it, he sees the river, and the surroundings that he was unfamiliar with dissipate, and he's now back into his realm. Finds the river, he finds his campsite, and he goes, "Rob, what the hell was that?" And I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking, Another thing about the woods, everybody, I think the guy walked into a portal.
I definitely think
I
that's
think
what
he
he did.
he left this reality and went to another reality.
I definitely think he did
I
that.
think that the Bigfoot, I only brought up this story is because you brought about the elementals working with
Yes.
Bigfoot. And I think that the Bigfoot, in concert with these elementals, being the spirits, faces in the trees, helped this guy get out of there. But I don't think he was in this plane. I think he was somewhere else. That's my,
I think well, the
theory.
whole time you were telling it where he didn't recognize and didn't hear everything, I was thinking he went into a portal.
Right.
Thankfully, he came back out. That's the whole thing. When we go in, are we going to get out? Because when I was doing the Alaska book, do you remember the pilot that flew from the Bahamas and then went to Miami and he went into that wormhole?
Oh my God, I do remember that.
Yep.
Yes. Well, he made a good point. Well, he's gone now, but he made a good point that maybe in that particular vortex that he went through, it was, vertical. That maybe sometimes when people go through a portal, it's horizontal and they're going down in the ground or up. That he just so happened to go to the one that was vertical. Think about that. There could be, we know very little about portals right now,
Right.
I don't think we do until we walk through one. Now, would you walk through a portal if you knew one was right in front of you, DA?
No, I wouldn't.
Krista?
No, not willingly. Mickey just asked if I've ever walked into one. Not that I'm aware of. I have not.
What if you were strapped with a thick chain and it was,
I don't know. I don't know. Kind of like the Poltergeist movie, where she goes in the TV or whatever and gets her kid back and comes out of the hole. Is that what you're talking
Maybe
about?
if I had a gogwall chasing me, I might go in then.
There you go.
well, if it was a matter of life or death, and I knew it's either A, get eaten by a gugway, or B, go through this portal, I'm going through the portal.
I'm going through the portal.
I'd go through the portal in that case.
With my luck, I'd end up in medieval times.
But my luck is the gugway would still be behind.
Oh, no, he'd follow through the portal.
Right.
Oh, that would suck.
That would not be cool at all.
Well, you know how we were just talking about how we think they're flesh and blood, but then they also are supernatural. This is something that really was like a revelation to me when I was writing my third book on the Alaska, because there's a lot of really strange anomalies in Alaska just because of the geomagnetic, ley lines and the aurora borealis and the earthquakes that go on every day. There's hundreds of earthquakes in Alaska every single day.
Really?
But what if, it's not that hard to imagine that we're physical beings, right? We're human, we're physical, we are on this realm, but we're also spiritual. We're, so in a way we are supernatural as well. What if these beings just have it figured out and understand the way things work more than we do? It does. So it really, maybe they're really not even that different than us, where they can go in and out of the realms and we think that they're not from this realm, but maybe they really are native to this realm, some of them, and maybe they just understand how to blend in with the trees. We're just not as advanced as they are in our understanding. We're just like infants with this,
right,
trying to figure it all out.
I think that's a possibility. I think that's I think we're paranormal. We're paranormal to Bigfoot.
Well, definitely.
I was just going to ask, back on the portal thing, do you think a lot of the missing people that we have, the missing 411 people, go into portals and just can't get out?
I think some of them do, and I think I think there are a range of things. I think some of them go into portals, and like I can't remember the pilot's name now, but when I read that, because it was in, I don't know, the last article that I read about his adventures and stuff, but that really made a lot of sense. Like, he just so happened to be going vertical and went from one end to out. But what if that wormhole was horizontal and people were walking in a, kind of like an elevator and just going down or going up? you know? And then I think UFOs, I think there's a lot of abductions, especially in the national forests. I don't think it's all portals. And I do think there can be, the norm, like a bear attack, or maybe somebody just gets lost, or maybe somebody kills somebody, or maybe Bigfoot abduction, or maybe a dog man or some other kind of cryptid gets a hold of them. I don't think it's just one thing. But I do think like a lot of the 411 David Pilati's missing. I think a lot of the ones that come back where they searched the land over, and then years later you see a backpack sitting by a rock, and then you see the remains of where I think those particular things are from UFO abductions. And I don't know why they feel led to leave the remains on Earth. There's got to be a reason for that.
I'm going to blow your mind with something here really quickly. First, thanks to Two Shadows for your awesome super chat, and Gary Spike Sr. for gifting to 5 BMR Pirate memberships. Thanks, you guys. And thanks for all the people really quickly that are, we've got anniversary Mickey G, member for 8 months. Thank you so much for that. And before we, so thank you for that. It's great. It would help support what we do. I got to ask you, DA. I've talked to a couple people that have this theory that what if we, human beings, we're actually aliens from the future?
Like right now?
Yes, right now.
I don't know. You mean like the Greys? Why they would be abducting us?
Perhaps, yeah.
Or I could see maybe why the aliens might be, the alien Greys might. I don't believe
maybe we existed 100 million light years away. Now we're put back on Earth for some reason.
I mean, I think I think it could be plausible to think that alien Greys could be the future of us that might have decided to go into the transhumanism, and they realized they fucked up,
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I want to go back. Maybe fix this.
I like that. That was cute. It was maybe alien Greys are humans in the future,
and they realize what they did to themselves. I mean, I think we're on the threshold of choosing to do technology that's outside of ourselves, which we all do with our phones and our watches and all this stuff. But we're getting ready to go to another level of it with the chip, or go within and develop that technology. I think that's going to be the difference of 100 years from now. You're going to see a divide in the collective consciousness where people chose to take that technology outside of themselves and they really mess up and they lose their humanity, versus the ones that choose to develop their technology from within themselves and they advance naturally.
Well, Lil Patty says, now that's another book story. Yeah, it's fascinating.
I think you're right, Patty.
And I think that I also spent too much time watching sci-fi movies on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
But, the longer I've been doing this, okay, Star Wars. Okay, I saw it. I thought it was awesome when I was a kid. Today is, many years later, I'm wondering where these guys came up with the background, the story, the creation of these monsters. Some suggest that George Lucas
was an abductee,
had alien encounters, and this is just these are memories placed in his head from his abduction.
Yeah,
and that because I get it. People are geniuses and they're very creative and can spin a lot of things. I get that. And then I started watching other movies, and then we were talking about folklore being real, starting out with some semblance of reality. In fact, in a lot of these far out movies we watch, I'm not so sure that they're all fiction today.
Well, just like you remember Dr. Hynek from Project Blue book?
The doctor? A little bit, yeah.
Okay, well, that is a lot talked about in my book Unleashed, book 2, because it's the timeline. It starts in Nazi Germany and then it goes into the 50s and the 60s and stuff. but he was actually was a consultant for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That was actually he took a lot of his knowledge and things that he saw, because he started as a skeptic and
Wow.
he was a believer, and he stood up to the government at the end.
Wow.
Yeah, because his whole sole purpose was there's a reason for this. It was nothing about a UFO. That was the whole purpose for Project Blue Book, to dismiss any type of sightings, because there were so many of them.
Right.
That's something I have to dive into a little more, because I started watching some shows on that. It's very fascinating. And of course, the Walking Human Encyclopedia. Dukes. Subscribe to World Bigfoot Central if not already. George Lucas bought the scripts from a guy in Minnesota who paid off to never talk about it. Well,
I wouldn't doubt that.
that's plausible, man.
Very plausible.
And I got to tell, when Duke speaks, I tend to listen. He educated me on my Bigfoot sighting. He was the first guy to help me when no one would help me. So I always loved Duke. And he's a wealth of knowledge, you guys. Go check him out. But yeah, Krista.
Yep.
I wouldn't doubt that story.
No, I wouldn't either.
That statement.
Do you want to hear? You want to hear something that's really creepy and really spooky?
Of course.
And it actually starts in my book too, and Unleashed. And I open up with Parsons, Jack Parsons. Have you ever heard of the Collins Elite?
I have not.
Okay, the Collins Elite was a group that's not even really their real name, and you can find very little about the Collins Elite, but that's actually further down in the story. But Jack Parsons was fascinated with Aleister Crowley, and the government was fascinated with Aleister Crowley, with Jack Parsons, and Ron R. Hubbard. Okay, because they were all into the occult.
Are you talking about L. Ron Hubbard?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were all in together. And
I thought he made a diet book. Wrong. Well, Ron Hubbard, I guess. I don't know. But go ahead.
Diet book.
Okay.
Well, he sure did know how to get into his sex magic. They were very much.
Okay. Maybe that's what it was. Sex, lose weight. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue on.
Yeah.
Same thing.
But anyway.
Busting those calories. Okay.
Yeah. The reason why the government would, and Aleister Crowley, it goes back further. Aleister Crowley was actually a spy in the World War I. He was from England, Great Britain, right? From Britain. And then when Jack Parsons started following him, that was his mentor, they were doing these Egyptian sex rituals, sex magic, blood magic, and they were opening portals, and that's what the government was interested in. They Jack Parsons did not have formal education, and he was a rocket scientist. I mean, he basically traded, he basically made a deal with the devil, and that's where a lot of his knowledge came in. But the day that he died, which some think that he was killed, others think he was on purpose, and other people think it was an accident, but he blew himself up. And the day that he died had the most UFO spottings ever. And Aleister Crowley's lamb looks just like an alien gray if you look at the pictures. So there's a lot of reason to believe that the connection with Roswell and all of that, when Parsons died, they had so many UFO sightings that day. They had to get Blue Book Project book in there. And that's when they got the Collins Elite to figure out what the hell was going on, because they want, whatever the government, and of course, again, this is for government, this is for entertainment purposes, what we're talking about. But whatever they can find, they want to weaponize.
Yep.
So they wanted to figure out how they were doing these portals and who they were working with, these beings.
Yeah.
And so the Collins Elite were just like all the scholars that understood Mesopotamia and old religions and so on, and priests and pastors. And so basically this went on, and I do believe that they're still part of they work under the Pentagon. but they're not. It's so top secret that they just won't even admit that they are working. They won't admit that that's part of their government, but they are still doing it. And that's probably one of the reasons why they've advanced. But at the end, the last two that were in the Collins Elite, I think they ended up dying, and they went to a priest and they confessed that our government is working with demons, that's what these alien grays are, and that they've seen it, and that basically they want to learn how to weaponize demons against humanity. That's the whole purpose of this technology that they're getting in advance.
Wow.
And so they also want to weaponize portals. Can you imagine if you have a war breakout in Ukraine? Imagine if being able to put thousands of men through a portal without any aircraft or any ships, just going straight through the portal and back.
Wow.
You know, a lot of people suggest that demons are demons. Well, alien grays or any alien in general are actual demons. I flip.
I don't think they're all demons.
I don't
I'm
think
talking
they
about
are
the
either.
alien grays.
Yes, I don't think they all. I've heard all those stories too about that. I don't know yet. Don't know enough about it, but I hear stories on both sides of that coin. You know, much like the far-fetched story about are we, future. Are we aliens from the future? But I think that maybe alien grays. See, if you believe that the alien gray is us in the future, and we're not demons, certainly a lot of our human beings in today's society are demons.
Well, and then they say there's different levels of grays. There's the tall ones. There's the and there could be some that are they could be both, just like what we say about Bigfoot and Dogman. And I think that's one of the advantages that the powers that be have against us is we, in our thinking, we think one thing is what it is. It's all that one thing.
Right.
Just like a chimera. Most people wouldn't know what a chimera is, but it's a cryptid or a hybrid.
Yeah.
They use different words. So that's kind of how they get away with being what they are,
And you make a good point, because I always just pigeonhole, and I shouldn't do this. I need to really learn a little more about the UFO and the alien side of what we talk about, since we do talk all these weird things. But still, when I think alien, I'm still pigeonholed into the alien gray, and that's it. And I know that there's probably many different alien grays species, right? There's not just one. There's probably 100 of them. And there's probably a million different aliens.
just like
the
George
Nordics, like you hear about the Nordics.
Right.
I know a few of them, but there's many out there.
Well, in my book Unleashed, when Eisenhower makes the treaty,
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
he had 3 different groups that he went through. First were the Pleiadians. He didn't like their deal. He wasn't into love and peace and harmony and good vibes. It wasn't his thing. He was a military man, and he wanted to be powerful and be the number one power in the world. So he went with, then there was another group, and I'm not sure which group that I went with, but I don't think I touched base too much on that one. But the one that he went and sealed the deal with was the alien grays, which in my books in Germany, I think Germany was the first country that worked with aliens, and it was the reptilians. And they're very aggressive, and they're all about war.
Yeah.
Their technology came from that. So when we got all the with Project Paperclip, when all of them came here, we got the aliens too. And then when we signed on the treaty with the alien grays, they actually work under the reptilians. They're kind of like the workers. They kind of, like the hitmen. They do all the abductions, but I think the reptilians are on the top. Nobody wants to talk about the reptilians.
No, I know. I now you bring that up, I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah.
I guess reptilian. I guess that's the species that you don't want to see,
Right.
because you're not going to come back. If they abduct you, you're not coming back.
No. And I've heard and I've researched too, where when they're underground, they reveal themselves like their true form. But when they're above the ground, They can. It's not that they really even look any different. It's the way that they manipulate our perception. So when we're looking at them, kind of like a glamour spell, like if you had a witch, put a glamour spell and you think, like in The Craft, remember that where she did that, kind of like that, but it's a little more, it's kind of that basis, but I think that they can manipulate how you see them. And then I think some people can see them.
Yeah.
Maybe you remember this story, and I hate when somebody brings something up and that I know about it, but I never really did I gloss through it. There's a very popular person that I believe was eliminated by the government because he went public with
Bill Snyder,
yes, thank
the
you.
engineer. And now he was hired on when Eisenhower made that treaty. That's what he says. He was one of the ones that I've seen in my research. The alien greys worked with them and his men that was part of one of the things with the treaty too, is you got to supply us with about 6,000 humans a year.
Yeah.
Just look the other way.
Now that was with the firefight too, right? With the reptilians.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that story?
A little bit.
Because you could probably remember more than I do, but yeah, didn't he? He was put down into a base with black ops people, correct?
Yeah.
And I don't think too many of us made it back out. I think now my question is, what were the reptilians doing down there? Were they working in cahoots with us, or do we capture them, or they just simply land here?
I think they
over that space.
I think they came with the Nazis. I think they came as a package deal when we got Project Paperclip. I think that's where a lot of really during World War II, Germany led the powers of the air. I mean, they were the best of the best. I think that's where they were getting their technology. And so when they came over here, I think that they were doing experiments. You go into Dulce, New Mexico, and there's probably like 150 something bases in the United States that we don't even know about. And I think a lot of it is they're experimenting on us, and I think some of it is for consumption, and I think a lot of it is very nefarious.
Yeah.
But I think they are doing experiments, and I don't even want to think about it because it makes me cringe, but I do think that there's some of it is for procreation too. I can't even imagine, but.
Well, it is. I talked to a woman that was involved in that, and I'm not going to tell that story. I'll save that for another time, but.
It's pretty gruesome.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Kind
but
of.
They do prefer to be underground. And actually in my first book, Deanna goes to the Antarctica with Admiral Byrd. So you got all that thing with the showdown, the final showdown with the Nazis after World War II, when they went to Antarctica, and she sees reptilians full force.
Wow.
Working with our government.
Wow. Kind of turning the tide just a little bit, because you mentioned to me earlier you wanted to talk about something, and we could talk this subject all night long, actually. But you were in the spirit of Halloween. Weren't you telling me something about an encounter or something at the cemetery? You wanted to talk about
cemetery ever.
Yes.
One of my creeper keepers.
Yes, I'd like to talk about that since it is the spirit of Halloween, and I just I just love cemeteries for some odd reason.
I love cemeteries and ghost stories, and I was always fascinated with it. And Krista, you was asking me earlier about how I get my ideas, and it's funny because when I write, I don't even plan on doing it because I don't have outlines or anything like that. But in this book, Creepiest Cemetery Ever, it's about Highgate Cemetery in London, and it's just like the perfect smorgasbord, if you would say, for why it's so creepy. I mean, I think there's like 150,000 people buried in that cemetery, and there's only 53,000 markers. I mean, they're literally just
just an FYI,
each other.
One of my favorite paranormal shows on YouTube is the Paranormal Files. and he was just at Highgate Cemetery, and it's a great episode. Look it up and watch it.
I'll have to check it out. What was it on?
It's called The Paranormal Files.
Okay.
And this was Colin Browen, and he's from here, but they went over to England, and so they're touring England and Highgate Cemetery. I think 2 weeks ago, I think that episode was just put out, and that's a creepy cemetery. Let me tell you.
They have the Highgate vampire.
Everything going on there. Everything.
Well, in my story, there's a couple young girls that are there, not really an exchange students, but they're coming from America on a field trip, like an extended field trip, but they decide to sneak out, and they decide to go to
new subscriber watching Chris's cat.
I don't know, but they end up taking the Ouija board into the cemetery, and that opens up, as you know, Ouija boards can do. It's a portal that just opens up everything. Yeah. I just think a lot of the people, I think a lot of I think there really is really haunted. I would not be surprised if there are vampires, not a vampire, but vampires in that area.
They talk about that on there. Yeah.
And Dogman.
Watch that.
And Dogman. And what is up with Dogman always attracted to cemeteries? What do you think?
Oh, DA, we did that show. We did the late night show a couple of months ago. One was the highest. Yes, we talked about. In fact, the title of the show is almost sad. It says, "What is Dogman doing hanging out at cemeteries?" I don't know. They're all always hanging out at cemeteries.
And it's not like that they would be able to feed on them like physically. So is there something supernatural that they're attracted to, because maybe they feed or funnel on the restless spirits that are there?
I think it could be like, I don't think that, when people die, they're not going to stay in their bodies. They go on somewhere. Right. Or if they're going to turn into a ghost, they're not going to stay at the cemetery. They're going to go back to their house or whatever. So my feelings for cemeteries, it's only negative stuff there. It's more on the demonic type side, because what is there? It's sadness and sorrow. It's every negative adjective you can think of happens at a cemetery, which would maybe bring in like these dogmen or, things like that, because it's on a negative side.
Well, you know what that tells me? That, because that's true. When you have sadness or anger or confusion or any kind of negative emotions, that's a breeding ground for demonic activity. So if Dogman is attracted to that right there just tells you there's a connection to the demonic.
Right. Could be. Yeah.
It could be a manifestation of some type of demon.
Well, that's why early in the show I suggested that the dog, again, there's different. I think there's the flesh and blood dog man, right? But I think the things that people are seeing are more often the ones from a different realm. I think that, I think there's a lot more to these things. And again, just from what I've found and spoke with many people, hundreds of people, literally now past since 2018, there's that just evil side to these things, right? I mean, I tell you what, I've gotten more encounter stories from people about dog men that just they're not fun. No. I mean, they're just not fun at all.
No, I really do think there's a good, just like with back to the Land Between the Lakes with the dog man. I mean, if that really was like, for example, a rogue shaman that went rogue and then they passed away, and maybe they were in that shape-shifting form, and that's what's lingering in that land. One of the things that would be demonic.
Right.
And again, Ron, who always has a nice comment, talks about Dogman and Native Americans calling or shapeshifters,
Yes.
And again, and the thing about the shapeshifter is like a trickster. You don't know what the heck you're looking at. I mean, a shapeshifter can turn into any animal, present itself as anything. I've talked to people that they're out hunting Bigfoot, or I shouldn't say hunting, looking for Bigfoot or whatever. And a Bigfoot manifests, right? But they thought it was kind of odd. It was kind of weird looking. It was kind of transparent. And how do we know that wasn't a shapeshifter? Or how do we know that wasn't a demonic spirit that knows what your process is? They know what
Mhm.
you're looking for. I think this happens more often than people want to admit. I think a lot of times you're looking for whatever it is. I don't care if it's a ghost, a cryptid. I think if you're in the wrong spot with that negative energy, they know what you're looking for. I think they can churn into whatever they want and lead you astray down a path you don't want to go down. So that's why it's very, I mean, you really got to go take your protections when you go out looking for these things.
You most definitely do.
Yep.
And like even when in the cemeteries, like Krista was saying, that, well, like what comes to mind to me is like a lot of times these spirits or ghosts, even in a haunted house or a cemetery, will reveal themselves as a child. But it would make sense that if a child didn't understand that they were dead, they might not be able to know how to leave that cemetery. And maybe that, the demonics that are in that area, they kind of steal that identity of that little girl and make it look like they're that little girl. Like they have like a model to know what they want to reveal themselves as.
Yep.
Maybe it was something that a child that once was, and maybe that child is there, but they reveal themselves as that child. And it's really a demonic because, and I think
that's true. That actually happened to my friend Tony with the Sally house.
Oh, really?
It appeared to him as a little girl at first, and then it showed its true self. And then his wife never did see it as the demonic entity that it is. She saw it as a little girl also, and actually Tony even drew her. Yeah,
wow,
it's a true story, and it's
oh boy,
demonic entity. So yeah.
Well, just like the thing that you saw, you call it a Bigfoot, but it kind of sounds like because it was so demonic in the features.
Yeah,
it was like a gogwow maybe.
Well, it definitely metamorphosed into something that it wasn't. It totally looked from an actual kind of like a Bigfoot, right? Just one that was deformed. Looked like it had a stroke. I mean, and it was. I can't tell. It was
I'm sorry.
But no, I mean, it was terrible looking. Looked like it went through World War V. But that man, whenever it yelled at me, screamed, yelled, did what it did. It totally metamorphosed into a younger, stealthy, demonic-looking entity. Today, I don't think it was a demon.
Yeah.
Probably a Bigfoot. Well, a cryptid of some sort. I don't think it was a demon. I'll just leave it at that. I think there was a paranormal element to it, though. I do.
Yeah.
It really is intriguing.
Saber-toothed wood ape. Yeah, thanks, dude.
It is intriguing that they feel like the need to reveal themselves to us, isn't it?
You feel there's the need?
Something out of it. What are they getting out of it? Are they feeding on our fear when because it's kind of freaky to.
I think you make a great point with feeding the fear. I think that's definitely a dogman trait.
Yeah.
Bigfoot, you could take him or leave him. They don't, Duke always says we're their TV. Duke's most of his encounters he has been with pretty friendly, straight up, the friendly force giant, if you will. And but some people have otherwise, like myself, wasn't all that cool. But I think that they like to watch us. I think they watch us.
They're voyeurs.
Yeah, they do. They watch us from a distance. I mean, and I really think they show themselves to people that are even unaware of them. It's always strange. Well, maybe it's not strange. When I talk to people, or if they send me something, right? It's 75% of the time, it's not a person that's researching Bigfoot. It's somebody that happened to be out in the woods camping or hiking that all of a sudden came across something that they were unaware of. They can't process. They have no idea. Hell, you can't process a Bigfoot if you're a researcher when you first see one. It's 8 foot, 9 foot tall, 800 pounds. Come on, what's that big? An elephant, in Africa, which you're not scared of because they exist.
Mm-hmm.
and an elephant's 2 tons. I'm just trying to make the example that, yeah, if I seen a
Oh, it
big
would be
elephant,
overwhelming. I mean,
if I
even
saw a
for us,
big elephant, I'd be like, holy cow, wouldn't be scared of it. I would certainly keep my distance from it. But to see a humanoid figure that big.
Yeah.
well, and then you have the different like types of a Bigfoot. Some of them, I think, like Duke has had good experiences. I think there are those that are
Uh-huh.
not nefarious and friendly, but then there's some of them look ferocious with teeth and everything. They have
Oh
like
yeah, even the nice ones still to me are kind of they have that they look fearful. I mean, you wouldn't want to. It's but
Yeah.
some more than others, right? Sibylla Irwin's gonna be on the show too, coming up in December. Does a lot of great renditions of Bigfoot, and she's got she did my rendition,
I
and
remember that. She did a
yeah,
really good job.
yeah,
Did.
and she's got some renditions of a Bigfoot that really are kind of cool looking, that are very friendly and very like, oh, okay, hi, how you doing, type of thing.
Right.
And some that were okay, stay away,
Yeah.
don't want to meet you ever again, type thing.
Right.
I
Yep.
think they're more like humans in the sense that there's good, bad in all of us. I think any cryptids, the good and the bad. Although I'm kind of going to slam the dog man a little bit. I don't think they have any good intentions at
I
all.
don't think
Really.
I've ever heard of an encounter with Dogman where they were talking about, they were a little friendly and
I think that they like to scare us and they get their kicks out of that.
Yep.
think they
Agreed.
feed on it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well,
You know.
especially if they are like from a supernatural realm of what once was a rogue shaman, they're gonna want to scare you. I mean, who knows? I mean, they could be in limbo.
And I've also
That's
done,
what they
I've done
do.
yes, and there's some that I'm not going to get into today, but there's also some that actually wreak havoc on people's lives and wreck lives of people. And I think that's the demonic side of it.
Yeah.
That's taken over. Maybe it is a shapeshifter. Speaking of which, I've been asking all the guests this lately. We all talk about shapeshifters. And it's Halloween werewolves, right?
Right.
We all know it's a human being that shapeshifts. It's cursed to turn into a werewolf. I was had an idea that maybe the human being is the shapeshifter, but what if if the werewolf was the shapeshifter that turns into a human? What's your
Well,
thoughts on that?
actually, in my book, in this Kentucky Dogman book, I actually have some of them coming. When this early settlers came, there was 2,000 people that came from Scotland in that particular area.
Hmm.
How do we know a couple of them weren't werewolves? I mean, that was a big, and maybe that's why they spread across the world, through migration, basically, and there's pretty many historical pictures and references to werewolves for hundreds and hundreds of years, all the way back to Anubis,
Oh yeah, we Dennis Carroll was on last week. We talked about all day long what was it, Chris? It was werewolves and vampires, and he's going to be on your show on Halloween.
Yep.
Dennis Carroll, check out that show with me and Chris and Dennis. That was a great one. You've got 34 books out, DA, and we're getting kind of close to the end of it here. Here's just 2 of them. Monster Hunter: Rise of the Cryptids, Monster Hunters of America Unleashed. Last time you're on, we did a review. We went over Soul Catchers, another book. I've got all of your links for all your books are in this show, everybody. Where can we find you? Anything you want to add and market yourself a little bit before we say goodbye?
I have a couple of my books are at Barnes and Nobles. If you're local in Northern Kentucky, I've got several of them in different bookstores. And I'm going to have more of them coming out. I'm pretty excited about this book is going to be coming out in November. And then I'm going to be shifting gears to an anthology of short stories, which I've never really done, but just kind of like you were talking about the sci-fi feel, just a couple little ideas that are going to just be short and sweet and creepy as hell. So I've got a lot of books coming out still.
Let me ask you. Well, I'm not going to ask the question the way it was posed, because I don't want you to give up your age. But someone said, did you write 34 books since 2021? You've been a writer.
2019.
So you've wrote since 2019. You've kicked out 34. Boy, you don't.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, I got to thank you for coming on the show.
Yes. I mean, you know what, I've had several people ask me to be on the shows, and I decided to keep it exclusive with you because
Yes, thank you.
I just don't, I'm so busy. I really am.
Well,
Wow.
you know we're gonna have you come back on because
I
it's
will
always a
definitely
great
come
show.
back on.
You know, you have the exclusive rights to the BMR show.
That's
That's
it.
it. That's it. Well, that's awesome.
Sure.
I feel honored and humbled. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you having me on, Rob.
Yeah, it's always great.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, everybody on your way out, hit the like button. But again, too, when you go back into the description, I have 3 or 4 links for DA in there. Go click on all of them, and maybe Christmas is coming. Well, Halloween's 2 weeks away. If you want to get a
It's not
couple,
too late. It's
it's
still
not too late. You can
Yep.
buy them during Christmas.
Mhm.
And actually,
know.
my Alaska book's actually number 2 right now. So the Alaska book,
Wow.
the 3rd book, is a really good book. That
I
one
think-
was really so much fun.
I think I'm gonna have to get that because I'm very intrigued with Alaska. Because Alaska, really, I know Chris intrigues her as well with what's going on out there.
Mhm.
That would be a pretty cool read, I think.
It was it's a good book. It
Okay.
really. I mean, I love all my books, but that one's fresh. That was just
Yeah.
a couple months ago, but it's a good one. It's doing really well.
Well, that's awesome. I want to thank everybody for coming and chat. Thanks to Gary Spikes for gifting the 5 new BR Pirates. Arr. 2 shadows for your super chat. That's awesome. Again, like the video, like the show on your way out. So if you're new, subscribe to Bigfoot, Michigan Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube. Texas from Porch. Shout out to Duke Sullivan. World Bigfoot Central. Subscribe to him as well. Paranormal Paul. Our Paranormal World, Monica Rollins. Donnie Cho Says Stuff. Those are all my buddies. Hook them up. Subscribe, like, and share. Chris, so today's Tuesday. Thursday. Oh, I forgot I'm on. Darn it, I'm on with Brandy. Me and Brandy.
You and Brandy Thursday
Me and
night.
Brandy. We're doing Will Lunsford.
Will Lunsford.
Yes. Hey, thank you, Mark, for that awesome
Mark.
super chat.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be on with Brandy, William Lunsford.
Yeah.
So I got a cool guest to
And
chill
then-
out with.
Friday we're talking about Ape Canyon incident.
Well, we got some great shows for you guys coming up. All right.
Yeah.
Thursday, I don't know who I got on the afternoon. I got somebody slated. I forgot who. I got so many people. I'm booked up. I've got next Tuesday we have Varla Ventura coming on.
Me too.
Yeah, she's another author. DA, check her out. She's awesome.
Okay.
She's a nice
Oh,
writer,
wow.
and she's been on the show a couple times, like yourself. I try to get more and more authors on because I find you guys fascinating. I
Me
guess
too.
it's kind of ironic since I became an author. I get authors on the show.
I
too,
know. I think it's awesome.
You know.
You got a couple more books in there. Just get in there and do some research, and you'll be right before
I
you know
know.
it.
Well, my next one's will be about my paranormal life. That's not gonna be the name of it. That's gonna be like a novel.
Yeah.
That's
That'd be a good one.
That's gonna take a while to pen. Let me tell you.
Mhm.
I write my books on sticky Post-its.
You know, the best way to do it is just open that laptop and just sit down and start writing.
Then you go back and reshape everything.
Oh,
It's way better than using the pen and paper.
I can't imagine.
I can't read my own writing. My mom says I should have been a doctor because she could never read my chicken scratch.
It would be
When
good.
I sign my name, it's an R in a line.
That's how it is for me too. I'm terrible
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. I should have been a doctor or a movie star.
Hey, it's not too late to be a movie star.
Right.
Well,
Right.
not in this field. It's not, But I don't know if I'd take the payoff. That means that I'd have to be a phony. I guess $10 million I can be a phony, but
Not necessarily. There's
I
some
don't
good
know.
ones out
well,
there.
there's a couple out there. I'm not casting a bad shadow on TV. because I do find it entertaining. I hope you all found this entertaining as well and informative, because I love it. I love when you come on. We'll have you back another 4 or 5 months. You know, maybe
Okay,
springtime.
sounds great.
Maybe springtime. Keep springtime in the back of your mind.
And hey, we're gonna get together and go down there to the land between the lakes. I can't
For
wait.
sure.
Dude, you
For
know,
sure.
yeah.
Yep.
I can wait. I can wait on that one. I can wait. Just kidding.
Well,
I do want
just-
to. I want to see a dog, man. I do. That's my goal. I seen the Bigfoot. I seen the ghosts. As much as I hate to say it, I would not mind seeing a dog, man. I really wouldn't.
Well, you
Don't
know,
know.
there's always Mammoth Cave too over there by the ferry. I mean, they're supposed to be over that way. And
Dogman
Danny
over
Forest.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard a lot. Well, you talked a little about it. And I've heard quite a bit about it. Anyway, with that being said, it was a fantastic show. So like on your way out, check out DA's links in the show description here.
Yep.
For Chris, for DA, I'm BMR. Until next time, we're out.
See y'all.
Peace.